Hello, my fellow Isbepians. Today on How to Make an Awk Help Yourself Once, I am watching a Kristen Stewart interview on my phone whilst cooking up, and you may now refer to me as Hoomst, because I have figured out how to. And now you're doomed. Well, no, you're still doomed. You know, Gur? That's the kind of doomed that you are. 4K! Ase Wiki! Hold on. I'll give you an example of how doomed you are in a second. Just give me a minute here. What is this one? Yes, you're that type of doomed. You're that type of doomed right now. So what's going to happen now is that in a totally and completely chill and relaxed manner, we are now finna cook up. But I want to explain a few caveats along the way. Number one is my main goal here, as I am quote unquote colloquially cooking up, which is not a term I choose to use lightly. In fact, it was somewhat forced upon me by the institution. But the main goal here is to not engage in overly addictive behavior. This is my main problem that I've had making music over the years, is that I get very into what I'm doing with my music making. And then in the past, this has resulted in things like nicotine addiction, quite severe nicotine addiction, because I get really into what I'm doing, but then, the human system, especially one that's done a lot already, only has so much like bandwidth to complete a task before it starts burning out. And one of the main downfalls of being really good at stuff is that sometimes you just want to ignore that or override it, or just being really into stuff. Even if you're not amazing at it, if you're just really into it, sometimes it's really tempting to just be like, I'm going to use a substance, especially an addictive substance such as nicotine, to override my system's limitations. And I'm going to be honest with you, I can imagine the Plato's ideal of nicotine use in order to override the natural human limitation. However, there's a lot of things in this world that are not even remotely close to Plato's ideal, and so we can talk about that later. So for right now, what I'm focused on is, I'm watching you, and I'm assuming you're watching me. What I'd like to do is I would like to put our differences aside and establish a communicative relationship where I imagine what you're doing and how you feel, and you transmit that data to me, and we work together. We call a ceasefire and a truce. Unless I come up with a dank meme to roast you with, and in which case, by the way, you're welcome to. I would be careful if I were you, because this is not. Unfortunately, this is not an egalitarian relationship. You're in my debt. And I would like to reach a point of egalitarianism between you and I. I would like to I'd like to help you right your wrongs when it comes to my music and your participation in my music. And one of the best ways that you can do that is by submitting your will and your vibes to me so that we can cook up together. So, yeah, when I say a ceasefire, I mean you stop firing at me because I'm all lasers right now. And I need your help figuring out, do you want to get hit in the leg or the thigh? I'm serious. I'm also joking. That's the best part. Now, I'm going to explain to you, and then I'm going to go back to watching this Kristen Stewart interview because I'm trying to rebuild the empire. And you're welcome to help. Just be careful how you help. But what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'd like to work on an electronic music song. I know I loaded up an 808. Also, wait, quick conversation. I don't want to delve too deep into this, but we have some time. I have some, the world of audio samples has a large gray area when it comes to payment for audio samples and licensing. Essentially, there's no real rules when it comes to, I mean, there might be somewhere along the way when it comes to licensing, but it gets a little more complicated when you have samples that are both available for free and for payment. And I've discussed this a little bit before, but long story short is over the years, like let's just say 10 years, I'll be generous and say over 10 years, I collected a sample library. Some things were available for sale, and if I had the money, I would have supported them. But you have to also, just quick disclaimer, anytime I talk about this stuff, you have to remember my family's federal history, World War One, great grandfather, Signal Corps engineer, captain in the Army. World War Two, my grandfather was a comms officer flying the hump, so running supplies between India and China. And then my dad wasn't enlisted or anything, but he contributed to the advancement of medical technology. So when you see me do something hypercritical and clinical in my DAW, you know where that came from. But anyway, going back to like when it comes to like using peer shared audio samples, I'm working right now. I've narrowed down my library that I want to use moving forward to a point where I feel comfortable with the morality of my usage from here on out. Prior to this, I have no question that the way that I was going about it is the right way to go about it during that period of time. However, I've established my body of work and I've essentially created a body of work that most people that would be it. That would be it for them. And they would essentially never really, most people don't even make it to that point, considering that I did it pretty much all myself. Once again, before we begin, we also should briefly talk about what it means to do something by yourself. I didn't program OBS myself. I didn't make the machine that I'm using. I didn't make most of the samples that I'll be using, although I can. But even when I do that, I didn't make the Martin guitar that I use. I didn't make the Fender Strat that I use. Although I'd like to do more of this, there are some things in my way, such as known as gatekeeping, and also such as known as corporate sabotage or espionage. There's a few things in my way that shouldn't be there, but I'm trying to work on just coping with it and moving forward. Now, that being said, when I say I did something all myself, I mean all of the things that within a certain parameter count as that. So composing my own music, performing my own music. There are a few things that I've used certain samples on that, like for example, I started my recording projects, like officially the way I would describe it is by making a mixtape, meaning someone else made the instrumentals and I just did the vocals, and I even used some cover vocals in some of it. Going forward, over time, I learned how to make my own instrumentals, both using sample packs, like machine packs, but also using my own samples. So And I got better at that, and I did a lot more of that later on. So, for example, using this piano behind me, or using the guitars that I mentioned earlier, or, sometimes then what we're about to get into, which is why I'm talking about this, is when it comes to electronic music, there's this program known as Serum from X4 Records, which is Deadmau5's thing, and Deadmau5. And like you could get pre-made presets for Serum, especially for like doing dubstep and rhythm and stuff, but also for just like instruments and stuff like that. And I used a lot of presets. But what I'd like to do going forward is usually create my own sounds as much as possible. I'd like to take that approach from this because I'm really reapproaching my music from the standpoint of trying to be engaged as much in the process as I reasonably can, which is how I always approached it. But, I took some time to pay off all my plugins, pay off all my audio software. I paid for certain sample packs. Um, and it's basically like prestiging in Call of Duty or something like that. I don't know how to explain it. It might be more serious than that. It's like every time I made an album, I prestiged. That's probably more like it. This is something more serious. I'm like making it. I'm doing whatever. I don't know. Let's not focus on that. You come up with your own metaphor. Actually, don't do that. I don't trust you. Anyway, so what we're going to start with here is I just want to build a few, like, even just one. I would like to build one Serum, like, instrument. And I'm going to use Serum 1 instead of Serum 2 just because even though this computer can run Serum 2, this is the Alienware M16, with the i9 and, probably like, I don't know, 32? Was it 32 or 64 gigabytes of RAM? Anyway, point being is that it can probably run it, but I want to try to start off with a lower CPU demand. And just to get it out of the way, if you're sitting on the viewership side and you're like, either being overly gay or threatening to rape me, I'd like you to know that I can detect you. And I do a lot of weird shit in my sleep. So be careful with what the fuck you direct in my direction. Nigga. Anyway, moving on. No hate to the gay community. Just pointing out some boundaries. So moving forward, yeah, I'd like to make a Serum instrument, and then so what I was thinking is, here's my thought process on the kind of electronic song I want to make. So something interesting is about electronic music, other than just like the basic production value of how cool it is, that the audio engineering aspect of it, but the composition aspect of electronic music can be very interesting, especially with what are known as bangers, electronic bangers, EDM bangers. And don't look at me like I'm cringe or like I'm being condescending. If that feeling is happening, it's on your end. So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so what I was thinking is like, so in an EDM drop, there's a few different types that I like specifically have engaged in, like the quote unquote dubstep rhythm drop, or the super solid, like the future bass drop. And I've done some other ones too, like the trap drop and stuff like that. But what I was thinking is, it would be kind of interesting to maybe start with a super saw. Also, if you're masturbating to this, be respectful, because like I said, directing your energy to me, you really need to be respectful to me, or I'm going to actually start taking like reactive measures. And I don't mean in a dysregulated way. Remember, I can feel your energy, so be careful. It's part of our contract. Just be respectful. Stop making me feel like you're going like, oh, like that and shit. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, so what I was thinking is, yeah, maybe we do like a super saw intro. So I think maybe I'll just start with building a super saw. And once again, if you're gonna try to fuck me up, like if you're just gonna sit there and touch yourself or like, like try to mess up my fucking energy, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to route that sort of thing back to you, because I've spent months just in the throes of depression and anxiety thinking about how people did not support my music effort, and instead they crashed out on me. And I learned a lot about the way that you people think and behave. And oftentimes your egos are one-sided, and you fail to see how this stuff can come back around, or can be used against you too. You seem to think that I'm just some sort of animal in a cage that you can torture all you want. So what I'd like you to know is that, God willing, I can make you feel some horrible ass shit just by being aware of the potential for you being a dickhead. And I'd like to get this out of the way now, so that I don't have to cover all this stuff every time I go to make music. So just, if you're doing something where you're just trying to fuck with me while I'm trying to work on this shit, I would like you to feel the worst possible feeling that you can feel in return. That's our agreement. Is that if you're going to fuck with me, I would like you to pay the maximum cost available to you at this time. So I can't stop you necessarily from doing that without compromising my beliefs and free will. But what I can do is create a contract where if you're going to engage in this sort of back and forth between us, that I would like you to feel as badly as possible when you try to make me feel badly. And I'm going to already rule out the possibility for you to say, well, I'm not trying to make you feel badly, I'm just doing this, and however you feel is up to you. If you can't distinguish between the fact that I have explicitly expressed to you that I don't want you to do this, I would like you, if you're trying to fall into those little cracks, I'd like you to get stuck there and never come out. And if you're actually supporting me, I'd like you to be uplifted. And I would like you to feel like your efforts are valid. Okay, so I was thinking we could start with some Supersaw generation. And then I think I think I should make some sort of pad or key noise as well. Let me take some notes. It's the 17th. So one, we'll do Supersaw, and then we'll do pad/key. Once again, if you're fantasizing about me during this period of time, please be respectful. And then I'd like to do a rhythm noise as well. And it's been quite a while since I've really focused in on this. I've done like one or two serum things in the past few years. But basically, I was in my groove in like 2019, 2020 before I got locked up. And 2018, I was getting on my groove, and I did some good work. So, once again, if you disagree with me, if you're just going to be oppositional, defiant, and try to aim that energy at me, I'd very much so like it to return to you at least sevenfold. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, I am going to adjust this again. Hopefully we don't run into too many technical difficulties, and I'd like to get one more thing out of the way, which is if you think I have some sort of attitude or I'm being cocky or whatever, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you are judging me in a way that I am 99 to 100% certain that you are not technically authorized to do, and that you are stepping outside of the bounds of self-reflection in order to take out your own problems on someone else who has worked very hard to not ever deserve being treated like that. Keep that in mind, please. Once again, if you disagree with that, you've either got some problems or you don't know me. Probably both. Oh, okay, so I think I know how to solve this for now, at least beyond a reasonable doubt. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. I'm going to play a couple selections real quick of my previous work, just to get this out of the way, so that you're not like the whole time I'm fucking working. And if you have like Down syndrome or something, and you're actually genuinely interested in what I'm doing, and that's just the noises you make, that's not what I'm talking about. You're fine. What I'm talking about is people who are being disingenuous and being obnoxious as fuck. That's what I'm talking about. So if you have a genuine disability, but you're excited and you're fucking listening to me do this, and you're like excited and making those noises because that's how you communicate, that's one thing. But if you're just being an asshole, shut the fuck up. No matter if you have Down syndrome or not. If you're being an asshole, shut the fuck up and go away. Anyway, so let's play. Let's see. Let's start with a computer voice selection because this is where the era of me focusing on EDM was. And let's play wait, let's see. This Meant to Be has like a quote unquote rhythm drop in it. I do believe I may have made the pad for this. I don't or the key or whatever, but I might not have. I can't remember. But the point is that the rhythm drop was kind of cool, and but it was definitely a preset. So I want to play this one just to give you an idea of the type of thing that I was into at this point. And I'm just gonna play through one drop and then pause it. Two things here. One, if you just saw me hit the vape, it's literally just vegetable glycerin. I talked about addictive stuff before, and I still like the habit, but I don't like the nicotine anymore. So anyway, that, and then secondly, I do remember at some point, I think maybe in the second drop I layered something, I may have generated some of the rhythm noise. I can't remember. I was watching Rocket Powered Sounds at the time, and by the way, if it's a preset, I mean the sound is a preset, not the rhythms. I compose the rhythms, and I'm having deja vu, so let's move forward. And I'll play a different one now. So there's that, and then I want you to listen to where is it? This one, I actually made this one earlier, but this is the other type. This is the super saw type of drop. So Yeast, that is one of the. I mean, it's not like only Super Saw. There's a melody and stuff. I do think that I made those Super Saws myself, by the way. So I probably did. But there's an example. And I'm gonna play maybe a couple more examples because there's a few songs that I got a bit wiggy on when it comes to EDM. This is one of them. This is one of the avant-garde things I did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Now I'm dreaming of better days when I should have been with you. I know that you forgive me anyways, but I do not know how you do it though. And I gotta go, I know it's hard, but I gotta keep it on. Oh, now I think that we should know. Oh, yeah. Could we? What have we become when it's all said and done? I just want to run away with you. No way we screw this up. Got too much riding on our shoulders to be older. Now we go back to the beginning again. What were we, just friends? No, it couldn't end. I said this one more time than I should have, but you're good at getting me to say what's on my mind one more time.
All right, so now that we've established that I'm a Yeet class hero, let's move on because I want to actually get to making sounds again. And yes, there's a number of other songs that I could play for you, but one of the problems here is that I only specifically remember. Actually, I'll play one more song because oh damn it, no, because we're gonna get then I'm gonna start playing other songs too. But the point here is that also I wasn't like screen recording my process back then. So some of these songs I'm just like, I think I made this, or I think I didn't. Like, I think I made this sound. I'm pretty much always sure of when I composed a rhythm or a melody or did a bass riff or something like that. It's very rare in my actual albums that I would have used any component like a hi-hat sample. That's not something I did. Or a hi-hat, like, okay, the sample, yes, but using a hi-hat like chop, like where someone else wrote the hi-hat part, no, that's not something I was doing. The only time I can think of doing that, even in just a random song, is like I made this song called Demonstration. Just a bunch of chops and stuff screwed together. But like pretty much other than that, if it's like on an album that I made and it's one of the albums where I was making the instrumentals, I pretty much like you can be pretty sure I composed everything myself. And if you don't know what that means, you're not qualified to judge me, so just stop now while you're still alive. Even if you do know what it means, you might want to be careful with how you're judging me. So let's get that out of the way now. I'm going to start with a super saw. And once again, it's been a long-ass time since I've actually narrowed in on this stuff, so you should be impressed if I get anything remotely resembling a super saw out of this, having not reviewed the technique. I learned how to do this, by the way, from Rocket Powered Sound. But also keep in mind that I've been playing piano since I was 5, and that I have a lot of other musical influences in training. So it's not, you should bear in mind that it takes many different sources of education to achieve a level of understanding which has relevance to the craft. I'll just address the haters one more time. If you want me to fail, I would like you to fail 10 times as hard. Or 100 times. Let's just say 100 times. And no takebacks, and it doesn't go both ways. Because I'm the one performing right now, and I don't want other people to fail unless they're trying to force me to fail one-sidedly like you are right now, if that's you. That's it. Don't try to get around it. Don't try to call it what it isn't. Just stop. Just shh. Shut the fuck up now. And if you weren't talking, shut the fuck up inside. That heart that's beating in there, and if you can't tell, there's been some people who've been really mean to me. That heart that's beating in there, it's making a noise. Stop that. That brain up there, it's producing waves. Stop that. Because that's what you're essentially asking me to do. And if you think it's appropriate to put that on me, oh, I'm not asking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well then you stop. Okay, and I'm going through this thing where I'm hearing someone go, "Please be careful." Stop. Just let me do my thing. So many people have no idea how I've been approaching this stuff, and you need to take a step back. I know it seems, once again, like I'm just having a psychotic break or something, but at the beginning of this video, I established a connection with the audience, and I'm asking you to respect that and stop imposing. The type of feedback I need is not, stop making music. Be careful because blah, 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 this, that, and the other. This person's getting upset that you can already do this. Shut the fuck up. And once again, if you're not one of those people who's being annoying and you're just giving me keep it up. Good feedback, keep it up. You know, it probably feels pretty good watching me slime out these stupid motherfuckers who are probably annoying you too. One thing I'm going to do here on this, and I know I'm doing more than I have to as far as the effects and stuff, but whatever. I'm enjoying myself. Also, I used to work in like either headphones or like only in-ear monitors, but I'm enjoying working with the speakers. Like sometimes I would listen on the speakers like this and it's less stressful until I need to get more in depth, but if you are still on the first half of the learning side of mastering this sort of stuff, I would recommend working almost exclusively in-ear monitors because it gives you a more consistent and direct ability to monitor the sonics, especially if they're in-ear monitors that you've listened to songs that you like on, like if you've gotten used to them and you know what kind of sounds you're going for. Oh, but I'm going to do something with the delay here that I learned to use on rhythm sounds, which is putting it on fast like that. Wait, was that right or was it dot? Yeah, fast and then oh man, I shouldn't have turned that on. Now I don't have to turn that off. Wait, let's get rid of it. Oh, dang it. Well, I don't know what that is. And this is one of the pitfalls of trying to explain shit to someone instead of just doing it. Well, either way, it doesn't really matter. Never mind. I'm just going to leave it. Okay, now that I've put the multiband compressor on it, you can kind of hear the delay release. It sounds kind of cool. Almost like it's reversing as it's backing off. It's really more like the sands of sound, but okay. I mean, the sounds of sand. Also, if we're going to go into more engineering, which I might on this, the super soft sound, I'm probably going to have to EQ the bottom frequencies out of. So what is that called? High pass? Up to like, I would guess at least 100 hertz, maybe even up to 200, just to make room for the bass noises. Because one thing I noticed about EDM music that I really like is that everything is engineered extremely cleanly, where there's these places in the in the frequency spectrum that are like very clear cut. Like the bass has a lot of room and it's not too muddy and stuff like that. And they accomplish that by being careful with where they sit the rest of the instruments into the mix. What should we call this one? Oh, right, we're doing the Apollo project. So the first one was programming, second one is guidance. I'm just spitballing these, by the way. We could call it like programming guidance. We could call it calculation. Let's call it calculation. All right, and then what we have to do here to make it so that I actually have like a rhythm for the supersaw, so it's not just, well, I guess, you know what? See, I could either have it be a future based saw by messing with the LFO and then assigning that to the level, or I could not do that, and then when I use a kick, I could just put a sidechain compressor on the supersaw and that would also comply. So let's leave the supersaw sound right now. And I can go ahead and save a preset. And then if I wanted to, which I don't really want to right now, I'm going to keep it like this for now. I could save another preset called Future Saw, and it would just have like an LFO pattern where it's like bump, 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 pulsing like that for the levels. And yes, I could also mess with the filter, and I could add some sort of sub if I wanted, and maybe some noise, but those are all variations of what I'm trying to accomplish. Right now, I'm just trying to keep it within the realms of this pad noise. And then, so next what I'm going to do is create a key noise. You could also, depending on how I approach it, it could be also called a pad noise, depending, like just something to do some melodies with. So this is I've got the chord bass now. Now I want a melody sound. And I hope that nobody's out there saying stuff like this, but if there's someone saying they taught me everything I know, don't believe them. In fact, you might want to assault them. You might want to enlist some of your buddies, and you might want to perform a physical assault on their person. And I would be mindful of local law enforcement. And if it is someone who's in local law enforcement, I would suggest that you delve into the realms of the syndicate in order to accomplish this, because this has nothing to do with their quote-unquote authority and everything to do with the fact that anyone who says that should probably learn a very valuable lesson about capping, as they call it. But once again, it's like there are some people that I have learned from. And so, but there's no one person who taught me everything I know, or even there's no one person who taught me a vast majority of what I know. The person who's taught me the most with regards to music, any one person, well, first I'd have to say my father, and my mother, and then next I would have to say my piano teacher, Margaret Newhall. She was very influential in my understanding of music. And then there's a few other people who influenced me heavily, like Mr. Perez from band, Mr. Niehoff, even Mr. Loft has, influenced me a fair amount. Although he was less of a teacher and more of a conductor, I would say. Not that he couldn't play percussion or anything. Anyway, and then like I said, there's some people like Rocket Powered Sound on YouTube who I learned some, techniques who they explained some things from, or even some of my professors at university who explained some of the ways that this stuff works mathematically. But I don't know why I felt the need to address this, but I'm concerned that, in so creating content like this, it gives people who are in psychosis, actual psychosis, a chance for them to quote unquote cap their asses off. And I've been dealing with stupid shit long enough to know that I have given people more than enough opportunities to not fucking do that shit, and they've taken they always mistake my kindness as weakness. So I'm now condoning people resorting to a reasonable amount of violence to cease those people because it's necessary. There's no other option. They don't respond to discourse. They don't respond to civilities. It just doesn't. And once again, I hear someone going in my head like, be careful, shut the fuck up. What, you think you're gonna like accuse me of being a terrorist and like encouraging a revolt and shit? Okay, well then don't come into my house uninvited with fucking murder weapons and point them at me and rob me at gunpoint over a federal clearance that you decided not to respect. Don't start capping your ass off and lying under oath. Shut the actual stupid motherfucking fuck up. You're all just in the same fucking boat trying to act like you're better than me, and I'm sick of it. You don't know shit, and you should shut the fuck up. Now pardon me as I get back to work. And if you're sitting there going, what federal clearance? Either do your actual research and find out what I'm really talking about, or stop because you're just doing the same shit I'm complaining about. And then if you're sitting there going, see, this is why I'm having a hard time getting back into music, because there's so many fucking retarded people out there whose brainwaves I can sense. I can sense your stupid candy ass sitting there, putting your fucking pointer finger in your anus and licking it. That one's a little more simple. And to those of you who I am triggering by being upset at my imaginary ops, who are often not so imaginary, once again, ops is not a word that I chose to use. It's just the influence of the fucking industry. To those of you who I'm triggering who actually feel me but don't want to see me upset like that, my apologies. I'm still trying to get over it, and I need to do this, I think, in order to get over it. Because I've noticed that the level of my dysregulation has decreased over time through me expressing myself in this manner. And I want you to understand something. If I was trying to run a business and make videos to support my business, and I have all these feelings inside, that's the point of what these people are doing, is trying to make it so that I can't reasonably present a professional front. But this isn't about business. They tried to make it seem like it's about business or like it's about law enforcement, but it's fucking personal. It's very obvious that it's fucking personal. And I can't see very many ways that this is going to all end other than a lot of unnecessary loss of life. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic when I say that. I'm being honest with you. I feel like the more that I progress through this album, the more that people who have arbitrarily objectified and opposed me, the more that their life will be in jeopardy. And that was not the point of my music making. The whole point of my music making to me was to try to reach up to my higher power and to connect with him and to express that connection to people around me to their benefit so that they could appreciate what I'm able to do and the way that I see things. But what I learned is over time, I realized that and I would hope this changes, but it seems like the vast majority of people who have encountered me making music, while some of them in person have, been cooperative and shown excitement, overall, people have been disdainful, and have not even focused necessarily on the actual music itself, but have just focused on being harmful to me simply because they feel like they can, and they have no real reference point for why that's wrong, it seems like. Or if they do, they just don't care because they're selfish. So once again, my apologies to people who don't like me focusing on this because they feel bad for me. And I don't mean condescendingly, because see, once again, there's so many variations of ways that people can be inappropriate towards me while trying to seem like they're helping me. Just like law enforcement harming me and acting like they're doing a good thing or like it's what they're supposed to do. Well, it's just my job. Well, your job's a little more complicated than that, actually, and you're making some choices often that do not align with the original intention of what the purpose of that job exists for. And you can disagree with me all you want, but that's not really the point of what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be doing this to further your career to the exclusion of the people that you're supposed to be protecting. And if you think you're not supposed to be helping people or protecting people, then you're just wrong. That's not what that job is for. And this is why I can't imagine the progression of the dynamic between primarily what I'm speaking on is me and the people at hand that I'm referring to in a negative way. And just in general, the world at large, I see it very clear that it almost has to result in a fairly large loss of life in order for there to be change, because there's so many people who have gotten in too deep and who just refuse to admit that they're on the wrong side of this, and or just don't want to change even if they do admit it. A lot of it's politics, and it's pretty sad, and it's obvious to anyone who's actually paying attention. It's obvious that the world is not how it's supposed to be, and that it's not a terribly hospitable environment for people who are, trying to be original and creative and be supported for doing that. And I'll just leave it at that for now. I'm not blaming AI. I'm just saying, like, people have taken it too far. Not just the AI thing. People were doing this before the public release of AI. It's a very big issue. It's the same issue that Pete Seeger was facing with being blacklisted. Oh, so someone has an actually useful and truthful message and they're speaking out for the people, not just for the corporations? Oh my God, ban them from using corporate media? Fuck you. Your corporations are supposed to exist to support people by generating a service or product that helps people, and you're sitting there saying, no, it isn't, no, it's not, it's for us, because we're better than you, blah, 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 blah. Once again, loss of life. Let's move on. Not a threat. It's not a threat. I'm not threatening you because there's no possible way to threaten someone like you, and you've made that very clear. That's one thing I agree with you on. There is no possible way to threaten people like you. However, there are a lot of ways to remove people like you from power. It's not a threat. Saying that I'm threatening you is like accusing me of threatening you with this airsoft gun. Oh wow, I have an airsoft gun. You're threatened by that? You're in peril because I have an airsoft gun? Really? Are you aware of all the other things I'm capable of doing without a fucking airsoft gun? An airsoft gun is an asset. It's a guarantee that I'm not threatening you because I'm focusing on something productive, which is my mental health. For all of you out there who are basing your livelihoods or well-beings on my downfall and saying that simply because I am succeeding at something that you're threatened and that it's self-defense for you to fuck me up, you need to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down. Take two. Okay, next let's work on like a rhythm type noise. And I can already feel the sticky, sweaty, like gross cringe community already starting to slowly crash out on me. Once again, if you're actually interested in what I'm doing, more power to you. It's 420. Go ahead and blaze it if that's your thing. I don't want to encourage any unhealthy addictions, but I would like you to be able to engage in my content, separate, compartmentalize my crash outs from my encouragements. If you're excited to see what I come up with, please, by all means, stick around. I'm actually pretty interested to see what I'm going to do too, because I'm working from a basis where anything could come out of it. And I used to have a lot of extra wavetables, and maybe at some point I'll go find some more wavetables, but for right now I'm just going to work with what's here right now. So I think what I'm mostly going to be looking at is like FM synthesis from the B oscillator. I think if I remember correctly, once again I haven't reviewed this in years, but I think it is I should start with like a basic shape, maybe even like a square. Hold on, that's my 420 alarm. It's a little later than the computer time. Only thing I can use right now is federal hemp when it comes to the 420 community. By the way, did you know that Officer Brennan wrote that I had 420 grams of DMT delivered to me by his... He didn't even mention the SWAT team. It's not really his, but 420 grams of DMT, controlled delivery by the Fairfax County Police Department. Let's see. That means the Fairfax County Police Department had 420 grams of DMT in their possession. By the way, it was MHRB, which contains about 1% DMT. And by the way, pretty much all plants have DMT in them, and animals. Don't know why I have to reiterate this, but you gotta think about it. Did they have a clearance to handle 420 grams of DMT? And it seems like, mysteriously, 16.6 grams of whatever was reported disappeared somehow from the package. Just would like to point that out. There's a thing called perjury under oath, by the way. Wait, that's not right. Ah, damn it. I pressed Control Z and it zeroed me. Gotta be careful about that. Basic shapes again. Let's stick with a sine wave this time. We could do FM from A. Is that better? I don't remember. FM from B? I can't remember what it was. I'll figure it out in a minute. And this is like one of the most basic rhythm noises I feel like you can make. It's like literally basic shapes and then the first spectral noise, I think. And like a super simple LFO. Now, what I'm trying to do right now is decide whether I should high pass filter this noise and remove the sub frequencies to make room for like an 808 or something, or like or just even just like a hard bass to go with the kick, or whether I should include the sub noise as part of the rhythm sound. But I realize this isn't necessarily something I have to decide right this second. And in fact, I think one of the main things that I need to do is, like, just like how I have the vape as a habit still, even though there's no nicotine or anything in it, it's just vegetable glycerin. Like, some other of my habits I actually kind of like. For example, going outside to smoke. Now, once again, not smoking cigarettes or, like, corporate tobacco type cigarettes, because they're not really even tobacco at that point. And I'm not going outside to smoke weed either, although I am going to go outside and smoke hemp. Like, there is a difference, you know? But, like, even if I wasn't going to smoke, taking breaks is a really good idea. You know, also because I've had multiple head injuries, and before you start going in on me for being retarded, like, think about it. Would you like someone to make fun of you if you used to be like, if you used to have a really easy time doing things and then that becomes really difficult for you and it causes you a lot of stress, how would you feel if someone made fun of you for that? There's a difference between, like, if I was out here running around, like, randomly assaulting people and then disappearing into the night, and then one time that happened, someone actually hit me back and it caused a concussion. That's one thing. You know, like, that's just some Yakuza shit. That's a completely different scenario. And even then, it's like, are you really going to make fun of me for that? Because if you're able to understand the context of, like, I'm not saying that's what I was doing. I'm putting this in perspective. It's like, if you're even able to understand the context enough to laugh at me, you'd know you're at risk if you're laughing at me. Once again, the careful. I heard the careful again. If you're telling them to be careful, that's fine, because there's nothing about what I said that I need to be careful about. That is me being careful. Them meaning the people who are laughing, if that's the case. Anyway, I think just speaking on the careful shit, just collectively, people need to be more careful with how they treat each other as far as their perspectives and the sympathies they have and the way that we see each other as human beings. If that's the kind of careful you're saying, I agree with you. That I agree with. I'm trying to work on distinguishing the types of neural feedbacks that I'm getting. As per our agreement at the beginning of the video. Okay, moving on before I start harping on things. By the way, speaking of the head injuries and stuff, another reason why it's amazing that I can even still remember how to make music at all, let alone operate the software in this way, without reviewing, especially. One of the miracles of neuroplasticity, and I 100% guarantee you that when I was extracting my own DMT and using it and smoking it and stuff like that, that had a huge, among other things, that played a huge role in me regaining my neuroplasticity, which is why it's so insane that I was accused and prosecuted of a crime for having MHRB. The only way you could have been offended or that you could have somehow been harmed by me extracting my own MHRB in the way that I was doing it is if you, once again, if your success is contingent on my downfall, in which case you're the one who's causing crime, because you can't, and if you're going to say you can, once again, like, be careful. You can't take a role that is the whole point of it is to look out for the greater good in a selfless manner and then be as selfish as possible and say that you did a good job. It's a paradox. And if you do say that, it will come back to haunt you, and it's not even necessarily going to be as a result of anyone catching you. That's the thing that I'm trying to explain to you is I'm not sitting here threatening you. I'm speaking as factually and honestly as possible while being as accurate and as precise as I possibly can about these topics. And if you're going to sit there and just be like, well, you're not very good at it, it's like, can you do something productive, please? Like, actually, can you do something productive? Like, drop the act. And can you either stop watching this, or can you go, like, figure out a way to use that energy in a way to support instead of to just harm? You know the laws, by the way, you know that laws are in place as guidelines, right? And that if you think that you have to prosecute this, that, and the other just because there's a law in place, you do not understand the law. You do not understand the basic premise of what the law is there for, and therefore you cannot enforce it effectively. All you can do is sit there and commit crime and then try to cowardly hide under the guise of a skin that was not designed for you. And by the way, on some real music industry shit, this is very relevant. It feels like most of the people in power today are people who profited off of the fentanyl epidemic. If I'm being completely honest with you, that is the fentanyl epidemic, and it also stems out of the people in the 80s and 90s who profited off of the crack epidemic. That really seems to be the reason that I got raided, is because I was producing something that actually was preventing me from having an addiction. And that was helping me recover. And I was doing it on my own, and that pisses people off who want me to rely on them when I really shouldn't have to. Now, once again, with regards to my ketamine prescription, am I displeased that I have access to it? No. My whole point wasn't that I was competing. My whole point was that you shouldn't be removing my autonomy and then calling it crime suppression when you're the one committing crime. And if you say, yes, you should, by the way, Brendan, I know where you work very close to me. Let's leave it at that for now. I'm planning on having a chat with you at some point. If you're taking that as a challenge and you think you're gonna try to fucking intimidate me, or you think that I'm trying to attack you, I'm planning on having a chat with you with my dad. This isn't about imitation. This is having a conversation about proper ways to enact law enforcement in a community where you have people who come from a history that established the very nation that you purportedly serve. And when you have things backwards and you rely on one sort of certification and education, and it comes from and then you have some corrupt notions that come from a group mentality which is also corrupt, there is a call for discourse in a civilian nature, since we are in a civilian area, and you seem to have forgotten that. Or you just don't think it's important, in which case, if civilian lifestyle isn't important, then I guess none of these civilian people around me need to continue living civilian lifestyles. And since you're the one who seems to think it's appropriate to cause that switch, well, then we can all focus on you in a militant manner. Is that what you want? Yeah, I know Trump is out there militarizing D.C., but you got to realize D.C. is a federal territory. So as much as I might disagree with some of his methods, that actually kind of makes sense. What doesn't make sense is bringing a bunch of shit into my house and using it against me that is supposed to be used for me. And just stop with "you were helping me." You're not. You're not helping anyone except in the short term your own self. And even then, I question, you might have a conscience. You might just have a conscience. Maybe that's why you tried to cover it up. This is the shit that I often suppress, have in the past. Let me be very specific. These are the kind of issues that in the past I have suppressed with drug use so as not to have to feel like I am like directing my energy at people in a way that makes me feel like I'm wasting my time. But it's come to a point where not only was that not healthy for me, like over and over again was it not healthy for me, but people have used it against me and have continued to betray me, completely missing the point that I was being kind and just trying to focus on myself. It's very difficult for me to use this laptop without being triggered about this, since it was removed from me for 9 months right after I finished paying off all my software. For that however long, 15 years before that, where I was using pirated software, not all of it was pirated. No one ever took law enforcement never took my computers, maybe because you knew you shouldn't, and then you took it as an finally, oh, now you can be in possession of it without explaining yourself. I mean, you still might have to explain yourself, but that's a fucking dirty move. You think it's funny? Well, then I think, I'm just saying this, once again, not threatening you. If you think that's funny, then you'll probably think it's funny when your genitals are removed and you're conscious, and you're still conscious. I'm just saying, that's the sort of thing you'll probably find funny. Zeeky Boogie Doog. In which case, I'm speaking your language, and not only are you not threatened, but you're looking forward to it, and this is the whole point of why you behaved the way that you did. So, not only am I not doing anything wrong, but I'm granting your wish, because you're a suicidal ass motherfucker. And I would like to point out that there actually is a legal basis for me killing you if it really comes down to it, and it's called Sic Semper Tyrannis. And if you'd like to try to explain, oh, that's not what it means, shut the fuck up. Once again, shut the actual stupid motherfucker up. If you just hadn't committed perjury under oath, and if you just hadn't tried to cover up the SWAT team, and if you just hadn't fucking brought a SWAT team in the first place, we wouldn't have this problem. There's a thing called community outreach, and there's another thing called valued members of the community. And there's also this thing called the inner circle. And I would suggest that if you were unaware of any of these components, I would suggest that you research them, because there is still time for recourse. And I don't want to have this conversation with you in person right now, because I'm still too triggered, and I would have a difficult time staying calm and being civil, which is probably what you want in the first place, is for me to overreact. Which just highlights once again that you are not a peacekeeper. All right, now that I've had another crash out rant, like I hope you actually, I hope this is water to your drought. If you need this, like if you're one of those people who needs me to say this, I hope it's water to your drought. And if you feel bad seeing me be like this because you're in support of me and it hurts you to see me like this, my apologies to you personally. I'm gonna put on some more music and I'm gonna go smoke. And then I'll come back and I'll see what I want to do next. I might just end the video or I might keep working. Oh yeah, and one thing I'll say is, if you don't find this impressive, you need to take into consideration what I've already accomplished and how I approached it, and the variety of things that I've accomplished with regards to not just my musical achievements, but many of the other contributions that I've made, which have often, the credit has often been claimed for them without my permission, and then there's been an effort made to cover up the fact that I'm the one who contributed it. Let's just get that out of the way. So before you're genuinely disappointed with me, do some actual thinking about the magnitude of what I've contributed so far and what it really means that I'm returning to this at all, let alone in a relatively conscientious manner. this album is based on like some of the Ghost in the Shell narratives and vibes. And it's one of the first albums, like first bodies of work that I created with the Machine 2 back in like 2016 or so. And the other one was the Affirmative album, which is not that's not instrumental. It's got vocals on it. But this is my first full song body of work. Not that these aren't full songs, but take it with a grain of salt. And then oh yeah, and some of this stuff like I used a keyboard that I no longer have on this song. I think this one I may have recorded I think I recorded the piano to this one on a Steinway at JMU. This is I made this one with a machine pack, I think. So that that was already played. I don't think I played that. The Works is mostly just rhythmic. Trifecta is an interesting one. I think some of the like the I think that is like a recording, a pre-recorded thing that I didn't make. But once again, then there's aspects of it that I did, like the hi-hats, for example. X-Ball, I think also came from a Machine pack, but it was just the way that this is the first song I made on the Machine 2. And then Someone Like You also was using a keyboard that I no longer have. I don't know how much we're going to get through while I'm taking a break, but I'm just going to go ahead and start it. let's not play all of them right now. Anyway, by the way, previously in another time, let's see, how long have we been doing this now? Like maybe an hour or so. I could have already been done with the entire production, the composition and recording of the entire instrumental at another point in my life, and already moving on to writing the lyrics and doing the vocals. And I can finish. I at some point I could finish a full production song that was actually good within a fairly short period of time. Now, was that necessarily the best way to do it? Not really, considering the toll it was taking on me. But it was only taking that toll on me because my environment was hostile. It still is. Now, some things have been settled to the point where I can focus a little more. Like, I don't feel like it's explicitly taking a toll on me to do this. I do think I'm still stressing about it more than I should have to. But in order to be effective, I have to a certain degree, let go of that judgment of should, and I have to focus on that this is how it is. And I've found it at other times in my life easier to get into that headspace without having to produce so much more commentary. But once again, as we've seen, we come back to the same problem, which is that factions of people do not have my best interests in mind when they are purportedly supposed to. And then they use rules which were established by my family as well as its supporters in order to support us, not to be used against us. And you people think you're so clever to use them against me. And then you go, hee, 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 and then you exhibit deviant sexual tendencies that are frankly undesirable from most people's point of view. And then you say that's what we are. You generate these narratives, and you try to use it against people like me, just because you think, oh, well, if you're, you know that I'm in the right, but then you say, fuck that, whatever you're doing, I'm just going to piss you off, I'm going to do whatever you're doing and use it against you. This is how the world ends, and I'm fairly certain that's why you're doing it. And I'm in a very difficult situation right now because what I'm doing is how the world continues. And it's very difficult for me to focus on that when it's like, well, do I want the world to continue because of you people behaving the way that you're behaving? Like, is it actually worth it anymore? And you're the people who are supposed to be helping me stay within, you're acting like the laws that you're supposed to be enforcing are supposed to help me. The reason that my mental health is bad is because this, that, and the other, or like it's my fault somehow, or like if I just follow the law and follow what people tell me to do, somehow it'll make it better, when most of the time it's done the opposite. I'm not saying breaking laws arbitrarily is a good idea, because that's the same problem of just being defiant. But when the reasoning of the behavior, when there's paradoxes within your behavior as law enforcement or as other types of supporting roles like that, is paradoxical to the original modus operandi, all I can assume is that you're actually just at fault in so many different ways, and that I just have to sit there and wait for you to stop pretending to put your penis in my mouth, or trying to cause me to have a surgery so that you can put me under anesthesia and rape me. These are the sorts of things. This is how I think of you. Am I wrong? Probably not. I'm probably not wrong about that. Most of your fucking behavior probably revolves around being a rapist. Now, once again, am I trying to attack all law enforcement? No. But the community seems to be generally not in a good place from my perspective. And it's very hard not to implicate other aspects of the industry in this. And I also can't help but feel like people are relying on technologies and saying, well, that's not how the world works anymore, loser. It's like, Yeah, it is actually. You just have lost perspective of that because you're delusional because you think a bunch of superconductors has made you a more powerful person than people who care about real life. All right, now that I've gone through that process again, let's start looking at some of the drum samples that I have. This is a little difficult right now because my organizations, let's see. There we go. That might be better. Let's go to the eColly kit. I feel like that's a very diverse kit. Can be used for a lot of things, a lot of different types of music. And I did send him a donation for this kit, so we're good on that front. He said I didn't. What? Oh shit! Could you even hear what I was saying? My gain was turned all the way down. Turn all the gain. Yeah, it looks like you can still hear me. Check, check. Oh well. Anyway, um, well, whatever. Anyway, even if you couldn't, yeah. Anyway, looking at the kits now, the percussion kits. I chose the eColly kit because it's very diverse. I also sent him a donation for the kit, and even though he said I didn't have to, I still did. So we're good to use this without any without without needing to justify it. Once again, if you're trying to add extra context, oh yeah, you do need to justify it, blah blah blah, because I said so. Like at some point, I'm hoping that I can just block that out again, or that you're gonna stop doing it because it's very distracting and it's like completely unnecessary to this process. And it seems to me that the only thing that'll make you stop is if someone shoots you and kills you, and that's just a factual observation on my part. And I'm not even inclined to do that. There's a reason that I don't own firearms and that people have said that I'm not supposed to. And to be honest with you, it's become very clear to me that they're not actually concerned about my mental health. They just want to be the one to shoot people instead of me. They want to do it and get paid to do it. That's really it. It's very clear to me that the people who have claimed this, that, and the other as to why they have a legitimate reason for me not to own firearms, they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that those reasons aren't legitimate from their point of view because they don't actually care about me. And they also have exhibited worse behaviors than what they're claiming that I would do with them. And they also clearly, by the way, the suicide issue is clearly not relevant to them because they don't have any consideration, like I said, for my actual mental health. So really the problem is that people want to be the ones to shoot people for a living and they want me to butt out of it. So my whole point is that I'm not trying to interfere with that, and I hope that by the time we get to the point where I actually would like to own a firearm again, well, I say again that I would like to own a firearm, I'll hope that you can see that I'm not trying to get in your way. And that I'm an intellectual and a man of culture. Now let's pick some drums and shit. It's the same thing with rating me for the MHRB that I had. It's very clear you don't care about my mental health, my well-being, or the well-being of those around me. All you wanted to do is make sure that you were the one who was going to get paid by the fucking ketamine clinic business or whatever, by the pharmaceutical company. You wanted to be the one who was taking bribes and making money And you didn't want me to have any opportunity to ever make money off of what I was doing, or B, you didn't want me to have any way to have like any autonomy with regards to that sort of thing because you wanted to have a monopoly. Something to that effect. Oh, and I don't see any reason to accept any other explanation at this point in time because you didn't try to have a conversation with me. It's that simple. There was no conversation involved. I was trying to see if there's other sounds that I want or another kick that I want to use, but I pretty much always settle on the blessings kick from this kit. And by the way, if you're sitting there, Brennan, and going, I saved your life! You should be grateful! No, you didn't. You're delusional. Not even close.
But you were in danger of coming in contact with the Mafia! Blah, blah, blah! Blah, blah, blah!
You mean my friends?
But that's illegal! Wah!
You know other people can write laws too, right? And when you're corrupt, it's actually way easier to take down your institution. Like that's the real reason that you're not supposed to be corrupt, is because it compromises your operations. And if you're saying, well, that's how you never. Well, here's the thing. Every aspect of my operation is still intact. I just had to change the way I was doing it. And then you could start trying to get all upset again and like overreact and whatever. But my point still stands. And if you're sitting there going, no, it doesn't. Okay, here's where this is going. I just want you to know that this is where it's going if you want to continue to push me into this cycle. It's going to come to combat. Real combat, not you people stubbing your toe in my house and getting a Purple Heart for it. There's no other way that this can end if you're going to keep driving me into this cycle. And I am allowing for the possibility that on my end, I'm anticipating something that I won't have to deal with in that way. And that would be great from the perspective of when we have to get there and deal with it. But you have to understand and have some sympathy also that from where I'm coming from, when I'm going through my assumptions of how the behavior is on the other side, it's based on experience. And I'm tired of being invalidated over purported either lack of credential or sanity or ability, because neither of those three things, when compared to people as a whole, are actually an objective measurement that would put someone else in a position greater than my own, for a number of reasons. For example, just because I've been through treatment a lot of times, that doesn't mean that I am less sane than you. It means I've received more treatment than you. So actually, one thing that you could assume is that I'm actually on most days far better off than you when it comes to being able to distinguish reality from delusion, and also regulate my behavior. And then when you take into consideration that little outburst that I'm doing to express my point, you should also realize that I'm imitating you. I'm upset and I'm imitating you because you're bad for my mental health. And once again, I can only imagine them doing you a favor because there's a phrase that goes, like a pig in shit. But yeah, I haven't loaded in most of my other samples from my old audio library. Um I'm still working on selecting which ones I want to continue using and which ones I want to include. Um and also I feel like I should do an engineering run on them to make them different than the original sample. Just as a modulation. Once again, it's not trying to hide your work. If you're enhancing the sound to make it your own, that's where a massive gray area comes into play. And once again, considering where we've come from with how this industry has actually worked, and not just the industry, the craft. Um, like long story short, it's the most legit other than like going and finding, well, other than like using real instruments to create samples on my own. Even then, I'd have to like make the whole instrument myself from like natural resources. Like I said, at some point, I feel like that'd be pretty fun, but I need more support in my community to do stuff like that. So like, what's reasonable for me to do right now, the deepest I can reach into the roots, is the fact that I on my own selected this audio library that I have in backup, and that I have over time used. I've decided to, narrow in on certain sounds that I like, and that I should choose those. And you know, then to make them my own by engineering them to sound a certain way. I feel like then I have, and that's what I was doing most of the time when I was producing. I was doing it in the, like, for example, in Machine, but then I wouldn't save it as like an export, especially because oftentimes I'd use reverb, and it's better to have a dry hit and then add reverb to taste, especially with regards to the engine, the audio engine, the way that it processes reverb. I guess you could use a polyphony, but even then, and if you don't, I guess sometimes the sound, like the repeated reverb, could be acceptable. I'll have to experiment with that. But what I'm trying to say is that's pretty much like creating pre-exported samples of, one hits that I've used in the past. That's pretty much, I think that's as far as I can go with regards to being original with taking that part of my journey, I guess, and continuing it forward instead of, because I kept deleting the audio library when I would find it on my hard drives, and then one day I was like, okay, I've deleted this thing like 5 different times. Like, this time I'm gonna take it as a sign, and I'm just gonna keep it, and I'll just take this and I'll make my own version of it, and then I can repack it, And I can even, what would be responsible of me is to then give that away for free because I got them for free. And then I'll put my community touch on it and then continue to give it away for free. And if you then at that point, if you have a problem with me sharing it for free, it's an opportunity for you as a producer, if you are the one who created the sample that I used, it's an opportunity for you as a producer to reach out to me and to have a conversation with me instead of attacking me. Because if you start attacking me, there's enough obscurity between where you begin and where I end that it would be I imagine it would be very difficult for you to get anywhere productive with that line of reasoning that you would use to attack me. Especially because a lot of the purported, origin of source, you're not the actual origin of source. You're just someone whose name got put on this because you worked with this method. One person I can think of, which I don't even know if this was an individual person or if they were ever alive, or if they're still alive, but if there wasn't, I can actually look it up real quick. Roland. Who's Roland? And no, I don't mean Roland Ho from Sleeping Dogs. So, but this company, I don't know if they'll give me a history. Okay, CEO. Is this guy's name Roland? No. Was there ever a human being named Roland? Roland? Well, anyway, let me see. This guy, Tadao Kikumoto. If this motherfucker right here reached out to me and said, "Hey, nigga, the fuck is your bass sounding like?" I'd be like, "Oh, shit. Is this cool?" And even then, you have to understand that's only relevant if I use a sample from his actual drum machine. If I generate my own sound that sounds like him, it's just a stylization. What, you're gonna take credit for all synthesized bass emulations? I don't think so. But on a real tip, if this guy reached out to me about my bass noises and had something to say, whether it's constructive or not, I'd actually want to hear what he has to say because he's relevant to the origin of the inspiration that I would be using. Let's put it that way. Now, if you have any other questions about how I'm approaching this for right now, because I'd like to focus, take that and start from there and think about it on your own. Oh, and here's one more version of that. I freewared a lot of Cymatics stuff from these people. The actual ones that I ended up using, by the way, this is when they were doing a lot of stuff, and it was actually probably a good thing that I did because it gave them more traffic. And to be honest with you, they shouldn't have been looking for money from people like me. Let's put it that way. But anyway, if they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I actually happen to know that this kick is kick number 3 from Titan, and if you're going to distribute this, you should pay us some sort of fee." I'd be like, "All right, it can't be more than $100 for one sample. If it's more than that, we're gonna have a problem because I'm gonna start a war." But if you're asking for like $5 for me to just pay for a section of the sample pack for me to modulate it, it's like, yeah, no, 100%. Or even up to, like, if you actually wanted to get into it, like, if you really wanted to establish a business relationship, once again, it shouldn't be an exorbitant fee. But if you actually wanted to establish a business relationship with regards to me reproducing, re-engineering, and then redistributing one of your samples, that's actually a conversation worth having, because it further creates a network of people who care about music. And I have this like website going on that I could add your thing to. Like I could add your symbol to it. I don't know if you care about that, but if you do care about stuff like that, it's just another opportunity. These are just companies that I've paid to own the products that they sell, that I use. So anyway, these are thoughts that I have, but in all reality, pretty much the only way that that a company like that could have had that much of their paid wares available for free, pretty much in my mind, one of the only ways that could have happened is if they wanted a portion of the population, they understand the culture and they wanted a portion of the population, if they're willing to do the work, to have access to it for free, because there's a group of creators for whom Stephen, it's more important that they make music with it than it is that they pay. It's more important that they use kind of like an academic community. Sometimes it's more important that the material is out there and that it gets put to use than it is that there's a specific transfer of funds from people like that. Now, some of it might have been leaks that they didn't want, and in which case I should be one of the prime people that you would actually, it would have been what's known as falling into good hands. If you disagree with that, I seriously question your musical integrity, because the way that I've been so supportive in the music industry is unprecedented based on the amount of positive feedback that I've gotten from the actual industry itself. Which is to say very little positive feedback from the actual industry itself. Not from other musicians, but from, like I said, the actual industry, and also from people who are more of a brand than they are a musician. Those types of people typically don't have anything positive to say. Or people that are just focused on the money making, or they're being competitive. People who are being competitive about stuff often don't know how to interact with me appropriately. And I don't mean competitive like all band competitions, established, actual merit-based competitions. Even stuff like the Grammys doesn't even count because it's so political. Because when it's a real competition, it's not like, oh, I'm expecting to collaborate with you and now you're going to crash out on me and you're going to diss my abilities or the way that I did this when I was just being open with you. That's a completely different scenario from, we're both going into this with a warrior mindset and we show each other respect and we just do our best. That's different. And it's very obvious when there's supposed to be a difference. And it's one-sided when you attack me, and it says more about you than it does about me, about your insecurities and the inability for you to be cooperative. And get this race shit out of your head. Get this racial divide shit out of your head. It's bad enough that we have something called Black Entertainment Television, which is so exclusive to people of a darker complexion, as if that doesn't perpetuate racism enough. It's bad enough that we have people who haven't really delved into what it means to be racially diverse and, to actually, there's no such thing as cultural appropriation if you actually immerse yourself into the culture and truly take something away from it from a well-rounded and deep perspective. And that goes both ways. A lot of things that are purported to be cultural appropriation, like if I do something, someone calls it cultural appropriation, when actually it came from my culture, and it was appropriated from my culture, and then when I do it, people try to claim responsibility and credit for it, but you culturally appropriated it from my culture first. as a steward, I'm foundationally very aware of this and very adamant that you people should take your time to do some fact finding. And I say veritably, nigga. That's me, fam. I'm the nigga. You're nigga number 2. I'm Black Entertainment Television. You're Black Entertainment Television number 2. Not to say that there isn't some validity to, like, when the need is there to isolate this part of the culture and force it to prosper, but I want you to realize it's 2026, you know? It is 2026 now. While discrimination can still be rampant, and I think you should stand your ground on not being lesser than someone just based on your skin color, I do think there's a point at which, just like the Me Too movement, by the way, it's like there's a point at which claiming to be a victim and then attacking people over it, there's a limit to where that's reasonable. And then beyond that, you're just being hypocritical. Black. I'm black. I'm black. That's why you keep targeting me, being like, oh, he's criminal. I'm black. I'm not a criminal. I'm black. And you lack the insight. No matter what your skin color is, if you're attacking me over that, you lack the insight to understand what a black person is. Oh, and if you don't understand what I mean when I say, like, as a steward, I'm black, once again, do some fact finding. You might not like it, though. So just do as much as you can up front, thinking about what could I possibly mean by this, and use the internet and do some research. Be careful for misinformation. And Stewart boys out there, if you got some black left in you, don't hesitate to show them. And the reason I'm not calling to arms the Stewart girls is because they scare the fuck out of me when they're black. Like, their black actions scare the fuck out of me, stay the fuck away from me for most of the time until you're ready to mate with me, and then you have to swear an oath. And if you break that oath, everyone gets to support me. I'm scared of you. I'm looking at you, Kristen. I'm ready. I'm not ready yet, but like a year and a half. Give me another couple years and then I'll be ready. But we do need an oath written up. Alright, so let's review. Through all of my, what we can call bitching, as long as you understand why it's called that, it's not because I'm your bitch. It's because I'm scared of bitches. I'm scared of the Black Stewart bitches. And what they might do to my testicles. They've already done a number on my penis. That circumcision thing is not for the faint of heart. It's really not for anyone, to be honest with you.
But I thought that was the Jews.
Here we go again. Rick. Okay, so let's review. We have a super saw noise. We have a key noise. We have a rhythm noise. We have kick snare, main hat, supporting hats, and a like hit noise. What we don't have is a bass noise. We don't have like an explicit bass noise. Okay, I'm starting to generate a vibe in my head, like da da dum dum, da da dum dum ba dum. This feels like it'll be a higher tempo song, like at least 140. Maybe even upwards towards 160. We'll see. That's a pretty good tempo, but I have what you could call OCD. It's like right in between OCD and numerology. It's in that zone between OCD and numerology, which actually has some scientific basis, but is actually, you know what? It's pretty easy to explain. There's this thing called the golden ratio, and also if you think about the harmonic frequency spectrum, and then you apply that not just qualitatively to the quantitative aspect of the hertz to note ratio, but you also include a rhythmic component, there are certain patterns that you will be able to gestalt identifies that have relation to some of the more nuanced elements of why a song sounds the way it does. So if you're generating this certain frequency spectrum, it would be almost impossible to sit down and calculate like on pen and paper in a timely manner for like over, multiple. If you can do that, that's fine. But what you can do is you can feel the overall sonic spectrum, and you can identify that, oh, this would 1 or 2 BPM actually would make a difference in the way that this song feels. So what I'm thinking right now is I like the number 42 as opposed to 40 necessarily. I'm also looking at it like this is a little bit silly, but like upside down 140 is oh hi, whereas upside down 142 is like she. Or I guess it's, wait, is it a 2 upside down? It's more like a, what is that? Like a Z. It's more like a Z. Xi! Xi Zhang Shou Chao. Xi Zhang Shou Chao. Chanchou. Don't start calling me racist based on the fact that I'm making up Chinese noises either. Next, you're going to call... Oh, I see. You probably think that me making electronic music is racist because I'm culturally appropriating electricity when I should stick to my stupid fucking hammer and string instrument like where I came from. Right? I should get deported to the piano? You didn't grow up as an electronic musician. You didn't grow up in an electrical instrument. You didn't grow up in an electrical device. Yes, I fucking did. I was born on camera. Shut up. And if you say I'm not qualified to make up Chinese noises, well then don't fucking subconsciously program me to be a Chinese sleeper agent based on the debt ceiling. Assholes. Pokai. Chan shoyam bonga. Yes, I'm making them up, but they also have inherent meaning. Tonal ass motherfuckers. Once again, I would like to also point out that you put me at risk of Motoko Kusanagi. You are the people who caused me to have to use parts of my brain that humans aren't supposed to have to use to identify patterns that humans aren't supposed to have to identify. I'm not the one who created this disadvantage that I have to think outside of the box for. I'm also not the one who created, although, what's it called? My bloodline may have had an influence, but I didn't create dextromethorphan. I was gonna say I didn't create dimethyltryptamine, but actually, that might be what my name means. So let's come back to that later and why it's so stupid to have that sort of stuff used against me. But I didn't generate dextromethorphan personally and then create an addictive situation with a lot of corporate influence about the pharmaceutical industry based on what I had available to me at the time. And I'm not the one who made dextromethorphan give people weird, strange powers at a great cost in higher dosages. So you people need to reconsider your influence on me before you start judging me. I'm just going to leave it at this today, and if you don't start picking up on the element of danger involved, then I pray for you. Guerilla. Leaving it at that. Moving on. And just to show you that I'm playing the field appropriately, whether or not you agree with me, this upside down ZHI, if you are approaching this from a certain colloquialization with regards to the anglicization of the Chinese language, it could stand for Ji, as in Zhengqi. I could also scoot it on up to 144, which is called a gross. That is the number. Because from a grand perspective, I am a master. I am your master. And so it would be appropriate, considering especially the settlement of the Walter Stewart clan in South Carolina around the time of the formation of the Grand Mason facility in such a location, and the expansion and influence that had on the development and oversight of the entire nation and therefore the world. Illuminati. I think I like that tempo, but and that, by the way, I'll just shorthand it to what is it called? Tetragrammaton? Or also I think it has reference to the Kabbalah, and I don't just mean like the group of people who the cabal. That's not just it's not just that. And don't even try to hit me with a yes it is because that word has been skewed. But with regards to like the actual component of numerology as a mathematical science, there is some Christian relation, and it was described to me by Kai Mayo and Jay or whatever. But using my own background, I also can see some of the relevancy. But and also the intuition. Sometimes it's just a feeling, and that's okay. I'm going to experiment with going up a little higher in the BPM, but if I go much farther, I'm going to end up in the breakbeat territory as far as how I feel like the song should go. And while that's not a bad thing, I do have to consider that that's not one of the things I've been focusing on. So I need to approach the higher BPMs with caution. That'll do it. I like that one. Somehow that didn't record at all. I don't know how. Interestingly enough, Oh, by the way, I just remembered I had a dream with Billie Eilish as the main character last night, or as the main person other than me. I was also just thinking about Kristen Stewart again and starting a harem, or actually starting a harem with her as the head matriarch, which I think would be pretty interesting. And then I remembered having a dream with Billie Eilish in it, which is also perfect because she did a tour with Young Miko, and Maria is one of the other main matriarchal type people, although she's younger, that I have put. We'll just call it a fantasy harem draft pick right now, because that sits right in between the people who are taking it super very seriously, which is what I want, and people who aren't taking it seriously, which is offensive to me. But I have to meet you in the middle when I describe it, because if you're not taking it seriously, I have to take it easy on you until you've proven that you're doing it out of malice, and then, goodbye. It looks like quantization is on for this recording that I just did. So that's fine right there. And then we'll just to flesh this out a little more quickly, because I can go back and, paint the colors a little more detailedly in the future. I'm going to go ahead and work on the super saw aspect of it. And actually, this is kind of capturing what I wanted to, which was like get right into the super saw drop and then go into a rhythm drop and actually like not focus so much on the intermediary part. Or if I bring an intermediary part in an aspect of it could be like, okay, now, like, it's like big drop, and then bring in like a da 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 da. I could even bring guitars in at that point. Da 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 da. You know, shit like that. Like, like, like mature and yet still has a tinge of emo, like mainstream pop boy band. Like, slightly Maroon 5, but with aspects of like Panic at the Disco, but also it's more like a lot more serious than that. Not that Maroon 5 can't be serious, but it's a bit more upbeat. But yeah, bringing back, I don't have a lot of practice with the Machine 3 yet because Christmas 2024, right around that time, is when I got raided. And they took, like, the day that they raided me, my Machine 3 came in, and they opened it instead of me and took my computer away from me for 9 months. So, like, it's been, you can imagine that affected my motivation and also my ability to, you know, use the tool that I had just acquired. You know what it felt like? It feels like, and this is another reason why I'm afraid to have children or anything like that, is like, not that I don't want to some degree. Of course I do. I want to have a lot of children. I have a whole plan, but I still have this fear because it's like, what if I have a baby and then on the day that baby is born, the fucking military or some small faction or someone who I thought was supposed to be protecting me the whole time was actually plotting on stealing my fucking baby and then raising them and to abuse raising them on their own, abusing them to use them as a weapon for their corporation or whatever. I really don't think that I should have to worry about stuff like that, and yet this is the sort of concern that I have, and I have legitimate reason to feel this way because of the way that people have behaved and then tried to cover it up. It also makes me worried about the future of being able to even engage in consummate activities, because what if I'm finally with a woman who I genuinely want to have children with and who agrees with my vision of how I want to go forward, and then the quote-unquote police bust in and, like, accuse me of rape, when it's like, no, we have this whole agreement that you're not respecting. You're refusing to see this way. And also, what if over time it changes and I'm not aware of it because my support system wasn't strong enough somehow? Like, you're trying to draw me in and then you're going to betray me. So, you know, even with my high hopes, like, I have to engage in the faithful act of believing that there's a reason beyond delusion that I feel this way. But also I have to be very careful because there are some very specific events that have occurred that have told me that this world is not, it's not behaving in a friendly way. And considering the fact that although me reacting to these situations is essentially how I should have reacted to them, that people don't see eye to eye on me with this and they often cause that situation and then use it against me instead of supporting me, it just goes to show even further that trying can even be a problem. And then the narrative's built around, oh, I'm abusive. It's like, no, I'm not. I've been serially abused, and I've been very tolerant, and I've quote unquote taken it like a man until that very last second where my entire life is in jeopardy, and it's not going to go in a way where it's an easy exit. And then I have to do something about it, and then it turns out the whole time is just a trap, and people were waiting to attack me. Where are all my supporters? It seems very unlikely that I would have been brought up the way that I did and then gotten to the place where I have just to have no supporters. And I'm not trying to blame you. I'm frustrated because the people who have been attacking me, I feel like they don't have a reason to do so. It's not congruent. Not a legitimate reason. That's like one of the main problems is like if these people are coming at me over shit that I'm legitimately fucking up over, it's like, okay, that's one thing, but you people are causing these situations, and then I go into crisis because they're horrible to deal with. And then instead of helping, you make them worse. Why are you doing that? Why are you targeting me like that? And then why are you wearing a uniform of someone who's supposed to be helping me? And I hear the psychic feedback going, I hate to tell you this, but one of your ancestors got his penis cut off in court. You don't have to tell me. I remember that, and that's what I'm going through again in this body, except, what the fuck? This is how you want the world to run, apparently. Is this how you want the world to run? Is you just want to use people like me as a sacrifice to cut off their penis in court to serve your own selfish, dark-ass needs? Okay, well then, this time, if that's how you're going to treat me, off the bat, since you already cut a piece of it off, I'm focusing on nuclear power. And I don't mean nuclear power plants, although I'd love to focus on nuclear power plants. Ever since a fucking day one, I've been aligning my brain, having been born in Washington, D.C., with all of the nuclear codes. As a quantum computer, I'm allowed to do that. And as the fucking the product of a federal environment that I am, not only am I allowed to do it, I'm expected to do it for other reasons also. And so what I'm focusing on is trying to make sure that there is an absolutely, undeniably horrific nuclear apocalypse if you actually manage to get close to achieving this again. Not just like this close, but like, the closer we get, I'm hoping that the shot clock hits 0 and that we just erase this planet from existence because it's time for it to be done. But my goal is not to erase the planet. My goal is actually to make the planet a better place, like a legitimately better place. But with the sole intention of, if I can't accomplish that, if it just can't be done, to make sure that it ends for everyone. But the people involved in that, I think, should have some caution when it comes to the amount of effort that you're putting towards either outcome. And you might think I'm capping. That's part of the beauty of this, is that you won't know until it's too late. But you can be pretty sure, based on if you do your own legitimate research on these things and you keep an open mind. I'm not aware of this because someone told me. I'm aware of it because I have a genetic memory, a horrible genetic memory of being betrayed by a woman who I trusted, who I built from the ground up. Back in the Gothic era, all you Latinos and Latinas, you're the result of my family. Just so you know. Not only that, but since then, I've had a lot of different crossbreedings with other European countries, which have some origins in Mesopotamian, and African involvement as well. So I'm very well rounded when it comes to this sort of thing at this point in time, which is why I'm so confident about the way that I'm saying things. And yet I still hold so much doubt as a result of my loss of hope in faith in humanity, which I am desperately holding on to. Why is that one not showing up? Then I'm going to get spicy and create another duplication of that pattern and remove the melody. just to give you some early brain patterns in the song. Now I'm hearing some sort of transmission from Ben inside, where he's saying he thought it was someone else and Swat thought I was retarded. Okay, well then does that mean I get to clear that up with a death match, with a fair one-on-one death match with these people? Is that what we need to clear this up? It's 5:56 p.m. I'm just asking. Fair setups this time instead of you people breaking the law and calling it law enforcement. I'm looking at you too, Trump, by the way. You're not exempt from this line of reasoning because you're one of the main people who encourage this sort of behavior. I'm not saying that you don't have your own reasons to behave the way that you have. I'm not saying that you haven't made good contributions, but some of the blame does rest on you for the way that these people have been acting. And if that's not necessary, by the way, I would love to not have to go there. If you would just open your eyes and realize what's actually going on and realize that, which sounds like you like from the psychic transmission that I'm getting, it seems like you may be having some sort of revelation that you're willing to share with me through the psychic airwaves. Let's move on from there. I don't actually enjoy being upset all the time. Believe it or not, I don't enjoy it. I would much rather be spending all this time, instead of fighting off my perceived enemies, I would much rather be spending time as suits me best, which is being productive and explaining and showing my work. And even then, I don't always want to have to explain and show my work, but I do like sharing. Okay? And I don't claim to be better at everything all the time than everyone. I love seeing other people's processes too. I do think that you should seriously consider the fact that I'm the most well-rounded, but when it comes to specializations, I'm always down to learn something from you. One artist that I am glad is still electronic artist that I'm glad is still making music that I like paying attention to some of his process is Getter, Mr. Tanner over there. Oh, and just for reference, some of the other artists that I focused in on, Slushy's another one. Marshmello was actually brand new when I started getting into this, and the reason I got into it in this way is because of someone who knew she was in contact with his manager Mo Shalizi, who, if I'm not mistaken, also managed Slushy at the time. And Marshmello was just becoming a thing out of .com. He maybe had one song up on SoundCloud when I found out about him. And then she wanted me to do stuff like they were doing, which I hadn't been making electronic music. I had just been playing real instruments, and then I'd also done some vocal recording, but I hadn't really delved that deep into the electronic composition or any of the. But then from there, I figured out a lot of it on my own. Why was I? Oh yeah, but I was studying artists and figuring out how they were doing it. I mean, Skrillex, I wouldn't say I studied Skrillex so much, other than the fact that I learned about how dubstep actually works by looking into, like, what was it, Planet 12, and learning about using Massive or whatever for some basic frequency modulation or whatever, and some like attenuation. I think there's one of my earlier songs. Let's go to the instrumentals. Planet. Is that even going to be in this? Planet. I think I called it Planet B, one of my practice tracks. And it's very basic, in my opinion. There it is. It's kind of more of a groove track. And if you're a dillweed, you might go, "That's not dubstep." Well, it's got dub and it's got step, bro. Actually, I don't really know what the collective definition of dubstep is. Like, what is dub? Well, to me, when you dub something, it's like, that comes back from the vinyl days, right? Where you dub something in. And then step, isn't it just like typically often even just like a 4-step rhythm? Like, or a 2-step rhythm? Like, this is just a reference to, if I'm not mistaken, like the use of, at first, the use of, like, okay, actually, you know what? I feel like someone that you should refer to if you actually have like a very deep interest in this is probably Diplo, is another person that you should look to. In addition to looking at the side of dubstep that includes Skrillex, I feel like Diplo also, to me, represents what, like, he probably has some education. Not represents as a whole, but he probably has some pretty good education into what that actually means. But the elements that I'm focusing on here are the fact that I have a significant drum pattern and that I have included a synthetic element of what apparently has an origin in the term of dub. And that includes apparently, the use of a wavetable synthesizer and also the use of LFOs. I think we can just leave it at there for now, and like the FM from B and stuff like that. That's kind of an afterthought and has become more of a staple in what the definition is. But like main components I focused on here are significant drum pattern and that specific type of wavetable synthesis. Even if it's really basic. Also, another aspect, clearly you can hear there are some other samples like those. Oh wait, did I actually generate that from the? See, now I can't remember. This is one of the benefits to recording my process is I'm relying on memory that has been wiped several times over. I'm not even joking. My whole entire memory has been wiped to where all I can experience is that exact moment that I'm in. Usually by pharmaceuticals prescribed to me or by some sort of weird overdose that I unintentionally engaged in. Often followed by what you could call accompanied by psychosis, where I can't even guarantee you that I wasn't in actual military-based combat. I cannot guarantee you that, and in fact, if you are suspicious of me in that regard, I would say please stop being suspicious and please start actually trying to generate a useful narrative. If you're in that type of law enforcement, or if you're in what would be considered a criminal group, and you're suspicious of me because of my history and how it doesn't add up, first of all, start keeping better records. And second of all, I actually feel you on that, and I'm trying not to be suspicious of myself because it leads to self-hatred and delusion, mostly. And what I'm trying to do is look at this rationally and be like, well, let's not claim that I was involved in that sort of stuff necessarily, but let's also look at the fact that there were some weird things going on in the world around the time that this started, such as around the time that the worst of it started, which includes like the Mayan prophecy and the discovery of the Higgs boson. Not to mention that my selective service card has a date on it which corresponds with the epitome of the Mayan. You could even call it a Mayan conspiracy. But moving on, let's move on. I want you to be open-minded about this stuff. I don't want you to look at me and be like, oh, well, he's someone I should be suspicious of, or, oh, he's just crazy. I want you to keep an open mind with regards to what my life story could be and how I've gotten to this point. Anyway, I don't even remember why I started saying all that. Oh yeah, because like I wasn't recording my process. Technology was different for me at the civilian level back then, right? Because I don't even know if I had access to OBS. It just wasn't something I was thinking about. I was already disgusted enough with the amount of Instagram posting that had to be done just to stay relevant. And even that wasn't applicable to me necessarily. Like, I think that I've been at a severe disadvantage since I spent time with people, especially, specifically, Pete Seeger. Not a lot of time with him, but, like, definitely in the realms. Now, there's something to be said about the distinguishment between that side of the music industry and the actual musical creation and the integral aspect of music. But let's listen to this again. The only reason I'm getting so amped up about this is because it's like, man, if I could just remember if that was a sample, like those are samples that I activated, or if those were actually just part of the same wavetable synthesizer that I pitched up, it would help me understand, or, it'd help me understand my process more, because I know that I went back and actually manually used this as a practice track to create the actual aspect of it, the wavetable synthesizer part. Those sound like machine pack samples. I think we can go with that for now. But the main sound, I think, is just me making that noise with Massive or something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and I think it's about to start doing some tempo or some rhythm variations right here. See, with that one where it dun dun dun, that one was just the synthesizer pitched up and sped up, not external samples or not auxiliary samples. Same with that one right there. This song also reminds me of the period of time where, like, League of Legends was fairly new, and it was fucking intense, but it wasn't wrecked yet. Like, people didn't ruin it. And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying the Koreans ruined it, but they played a huge role in being highly competitive in changing the nature of the game, and that just happens. It happened with Fortnite, too. I think it's important to preserve some aspects of the origins of gaming. And I reiterate, I'm not blaming Koreans for ruining that game. I am sure across the board many different types of peoples. In fact, if anything, Koreans jumped in. I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure Koreans jumped in to dominate it when it became heavily weighted. I could be wrong about that, but that's my read on the situation, is that many different types of people started complaining or modulating different the ways that the game was played, to the point where it's not the same game over time. But there were certain periods of time where it was pretty static. Like, the gameplay was dynamic, but the changes they were making were pretty static. And I actually didn't jump in on the first wave, by the way. I got there a little later. it's probably a second wave of League players, not to mention early access League players. But if you really think about it, it's weird. It comes from Dota, right? Which became a standalone from the Warcraft 3 custom game, and I was actually a pretty heavy gamer in the Warcraft 3 custom games back when I was in middle school. Now, to this day, I'm still not actually capable of playing the original Dota effectively necessarily, simply because, I don't know, there's some sort of... Actually, I think the subconscious explanation is that I am the Ancient. What's the point of playing Defense of the Ancients as the Ancient? Well, I still want to play. So, but I'll get there later. I understand. I have to take. My path has to lead me back there. But I just wanted to explain that this music brings me back to playing League and actually being pretty decent at it at some points. When it was just, when it was pretty stable, before all of the super nerfing or whatever. By the way, that's back when I used to not use quantizing on my drums, which was pretty fun. I might not even been using a lot of quantizing on my melodies too. It is a different time. I feel like after that time or around that time, like quantizing, like even since early days of like hip hop music and pop music, obviously sometimes you want to really make your songs like just cookie cutter clean. But there was a period of time in there, I feel like, where electronic music was a lot more forgiving, and it focused a lot more on the vibe than it did on, like, everything being... Because actually part of the cool aspect of it is that it sounded more analog, Instead of just being like, oh, this is all this way. Anyway, we don't need to listen to the rest of the song right now, but... What I can tell you is that the melody, like the that was definitely a preset from Machine. That was just one of the synthesizer presets. I didn't start focusing on making my own Serum presets until 2000. Well, I did some in Computer Boy for the electronic stuff, but I don't know if I was making a lot of my own keys. I think I was mostly just focusing on. Well, I don't know. But anyway, for Voodoo, this song. Actually, no, maybe not that one. That. I'm 100% positive that I created that synthesizer noise by myself. Now, I don't think I made the little flutes in the background, though. And those background vocals are 100% my vocals as well.
Feel me, I be on my grind all day. All you do is waste and throw my time away. Asking for handout, I be like, man down.
sure I was still making this music on just like a regular Acer laptop. It wasn't even a gaming laptop. It might have had, I think it had like a very basic graphics card in it, but I think it was an i5. No, it probably was an i7, but it was like an early one. Not a lot of RAM, like very limited. I was very limited, and yet I was still putting in the work. And I was doing my own audio engineering too, but that was back in the days where I was pirating most of my plugins. Um, Even Serum, I think I had Serum. Well, no, I might have had Serum on a splice, uh, thing at that point. Once again, it's paid for now, but I definitely remember having Cracked Wave plugins and experimenting with the different types of compressors and stuff like that. But once again, I've paid for everything that I settled on. I was using more of the stylized compressors at the time. But anyway, yeah, I definitely made that Serum key. And probably, let's see, what's this one? Okay, so for that, I don't think I was necessarily focusing on creating the Serum pads, but I do want to tell you that I worked hard on modulating that 808 sound. And once again, the compositions, like the hi-hats and the kick patterns and the snares and everything, I'm composing all of those and playing them on the machine. And I'm engineering them too.
I just can't resist. Got a new twist like I twirl my wrist. I've been doing flips. I just can't resist.
Let's go back to hear the beginning of this one. Those are probably mostly some Hauntley presets or something like that.
I be doing flips. I just can't resist. Got a new twist.
Once again, I'm playing the melodies and the chords. I'm saying the presets are sounds. I know I really shouldn't have to, once again, I shouldn't have to explain this difference, but I want you to catch up in case you're one of those people who thinks that you're a musician because you get paid from streams when all you do is put loops together. And that and also that you think I'm not a musician because I'm not getting paid for streams and I'm not quote unquote famous in the way that you would expect. That somehow I'm not an actual musician. Like that I'm trying to be a musician. Like I don't, once again, that inspires my immediate thought when I think of people like that is shooting them in the face. But I have to be more patient because a lot of people who feel that way, I feel like they feel that way simply because they don't have the proper guidance and context to, like, I feel like people who feel like that, if they just have an opportunity to be educated without being terrorized, like, I don't want you to stop making music just because you have a limited, potentially backwards worldview. What I want you to do is I want you to get used to the idea that your perspective has been deeply shaped by privileges afforded to you by the technology that you may not have taken the time to study the basis of and implement from the ground up some of the more dedicated techniques. Like if you don't play an actual instrument and you think that you're a musician because you put loops together and you get paid for streams, or even if you just sing, but then you think I'm not a musician because I'm not doing it for money, I want you to sit down. And you might need to get shot in the face, but I want you to take some time to explore whether or not you can change your mindset first. And every time I say something that has to do with something violent, I want you to realize I'm not coming at it from a place of like hyperactive, egotistical masturbation. I'm coming at it from a deep, deep, deep perspective of like an understanding of tradition and history and how I've gotten to this, and the fact that sometimes things just need to cease. Sometimes they just need to cease, and I think a lot of people can agree. But once again, I'm like trying to, like, if I just behave like that, then it doesn't. I feel like if I just focus on like, oh well, this person should, have something bad happen to them just because their mindset is inappropriate. I think that mindset is not tolerant enough to allow for society to progress. And if I am stuck in that mindset, I've fought very hard for a long time to not just live in that mindset and to have a more open perspective and allow for that sort of thought process to come up, because there is some legitimacy behind the way I feel about that, and especially the fact that it just generated itself. That, and in and of itself, there's a sliding scale to like legitimacy based on involvement and considerate perspective in the community. And then I'm sure many, especially some older people who are musicians, understand where I'm coming from, where some days you just, and this is why I don't engage in consuming a lot of the media nowadays, especially a lot of the newer music that isn't coming from people that I already expected to come from, which is not how I want to live my life. But I just don't engage in consuming a lot of new media because I feel like I'm going to be very upset with the lack of gratitude and the narrow-mindedness of some of our modern perpetrators of the ambassadorial effort, which includes music. Yeah, and if you're experiencing this feeling right now of, oh shit, what have I done? Hold on right there. And I would like you to feel like, okay, well, it's either going to be over soon, so don't worry about it, or this is an opportunity for you to come to terms with the fact that that's how you should have been feeling this whole time with regards to what you've been doing. And now is an opportunity for you to get away from that feeling and actually get on the right side of things. I disagree with forcing people to feel like that and then forcing them to keep feeling like that. That's not productive. It's torture, and I don't agree with that kind of torture. I think we should either get it over with and just end it, or get back on track as quickly as possible. All right, so what I was saying I was going to do is remove the melody component of this for this duplication so that we can have a variety establish the neural pattern pretty early on. And also not just remove it, but also add the hats here again. I say again, because they're very familiar to me as far as, working with them a lot. I might offend a few people with this comment that's just going through my head, that can't open their minds up, but I would just like to point out that the idea of having a black entertainment television section is oxymoronic. If you consider what being blacklisted means, and then you have black entertainment television, and you're just focusing on the skin color, it's ironic because it's oxymoronic. Just as long as we're going there, as long as everyone in the world has had a chance to go in on me and prevent me from having an actual career, let's go there. I'll go there too now with you. See, I'm 30 years old, right? I'm about to turn 31 on the 23rd. And I've been making music since I was 5 years old, right? And some people who are making entire livings off of music don't really play that much music. And it's not really that good. It's not really helping anybody. I'm not hating, I'm just pointing out that if we're going to be so judicial of me, if people are going to generally be so judgmental of me, and they're going to narrow in on certain aspects of myself and use the types of logic that they are and reasoning or just the mindsets that they're using, I would like to take the opportunity to, after such a long period of time and after so many events that have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the majority simply seeks to see me fall under any conditions, I think it is time for me to start bringing these issues to light. Nigga! We're already pretty much past the point where it's like, oh, well, now this person, that person, and the other person isn't going to want to associate with you. Pretty sure they would have already associated with me if this was the determining factor. So, I got nothing to lose with regards to this sort of shit. If you want to start attacking me for it, well, the whole point of this is that I'm not faking my funk. And if you're going to try to say, well, we SWAT raided you and you didn't do this, that, and the other, that's very unreasonable to use that as a meter of quote-unquote my gangster, if you will. I think it's actually extremely gangster that I didn't overreact. I didn't prioritize my selfish desire to try to establish a dominance over the well-being of my family and over the security of having a home, especially my childhood home. That I found another way to deal with it, and I wasn't just holding on to my ego and saying, no, I want it to be this way. I'm adaptable. Although I will admit, it did upset me. And once again, if we're just going to address the slave labor component, I got that covered, okay? That's covered. The abuse is covered. I've gone through so many different things that we have, as Americans especially, like, pointed at and said, this is why that's inappropriate. And I've gone through it with very little to no support. Whereas a lot of the people who are judging me haven't even remotely gone through the things that I've gone through and are relying on generational assumptions, a generational momentum, which oftentimes has been, I hate to say it right now, but just because I'm afraid of the mental breakdown you could have, that momentum has been given to you from my family. I was never your enemy, even though you perceived me as such. And now it is time for me to expose this part of the industry and this part of America, let alone the world. Because if you're going to come at me like I'm some uneducated American, that's the opposite of what I am. Of course, there's still things that I can learn. That's what's supposed to be beautiful about the world, is that there's always something new to educate yourself on, because we're all part of a big organism. And I'm not capping because once again, I'm trying to reach into your little brain skull and find that part of your nervous system that is being so resistant and use the language that it understands. I'm not capping about the influence that my family has had, especially when it comes to the positive influence, about how my family has engaged in the struggle. And I'm not speaking for every single person necessarily who has an attachment to my bloodline. And keep in mind that my bloodline is quite diverse as well. But I am speaking to the core aspects of how we got here today as a society. Because you really think about it, even like, okay, China's been around for a long time, right? Like the culture in China is there is a component of ancient tradition that has survived until today. But if you notice, like things like computers weren't available globally until, let's just say, the last 100 years. Let's just say since the last 100 years, things like computers have started forming due to the formation of telephones and stuff like that. Guess why? That's because of America influencing the world. And yeah, there are other aspects that, like gunpowder and stuff existed from China and whatnot. But what about Scotland? What about Scotland having things like gunpowder? And like, let's look at the fact that there is a correlation between the establishment of America and the Age of Enlightenment and stuff like that. Or what is it called? Because the Age of Enlightenment, right? Because there's the Renaissance era, and I guess you could say the Golden Era longer ago in, like, the Greco-Roman area, in Italy, stuff like that, even France and stuff like that. But then shift your perspective to the most recent, like, 100 years of innovation, and it's impossible to separate America's existence from the global changes. Not to say that there wasn't already momentum, and not to say that my family's influence isn't spread out amongst the globe, but just look at the establishment of America. I don't care if you think Christopher Columbus was a bad person or not. Not everyone, like the Pilgrims who came over, were not necessarily bad people, because what they were is a specific type of Christian who wanted to be able to practice their faith without literally just being attacked by a bunch of people who just said, no, that's not the right way to do this. It's like, okay, well then let us get away from you, because we believe it is, and we're not trying to tell you that you're doing it wrong. We're just trying to do it this way because we think that this is how God is telling us to do it. And honestly, the fact that they were being attacked in that way, you don't even need to, like, talk about the Crusades, because a lot of, like, that, actually some of that stemmed from, need I say it, anyway. But the point is, even going as far back, not even looking at just the Stuart name, looking at John Smith from, right? Is it Alder? I can't remember. My 14th great-grandfather was the patriarch of the Mayflower. And the way the story goes as such, the captain of the Mayflower, who would have been the patriarch had he mated with the matriarch, which was his intention, he asked my 14th great-grandfather to go inquire on his behalf. And the story goes as such, she responded, "Speak for yourself." And therefore, that is how the patriarchy of America was established. And yes, other people filtered in from other places at other times, but that is the story of how America was founded. And it rests at some point solely on my patriarchal lineage. And I don't mean that in the sense of oppressing the matriarchy. I mean it in the sense of just following the bloodline. And then other parts of it come in. I'm not bragging. I'm pointing something important out. Yes, and also, if you think those people could afford to be discriminatory, first of all, the way they came over, those ships were a lot like slave ships. Okay? the way that they had to come over and that they had to struggle and that they had to find their way with the Native community, it doesn't say anything about white supremacy. It absolutely does not. There may have been at points, usually probably later, because I don't think they had time to just be like, well, we're better than you. I think they were like, fuck, please help us. What are you eating? We need food half the time. Like, holy shit, what the fuck? We gave you a blanket and it killed you. Stop. I swear we didn't mean to do that. Later, down the line, maybe there were people who were intentionally, once they found out that that happened, maybe there were people from other families who were actually intentionally harming the natives, using some of the things that were found out, or even being imposters and trying to make it seem like it was us, like it was the Puritans. The same types of people who are persecuting us. You know, because they thought, oh, here's a business opportunity, right? We're going to get to this land first. There's going to be resources there. We're just going to kill all the natives and take everything they have. That wasn't my family. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And I do wonder, on both sides, how much breeding interaction there was between the original, like the Mayflower family, and then down the line the Native community, as well as, I wonder if there was any, probably not. I would be surprised if there was any breeding with the groups that were essentially being terrorists. But, you know, I would have to do more research. But then down along the way, you know, we have other people filtering in. And as far as I'm aware, none of the groups from my family, none of the main groups from my family have ever been involved in human rights abuse. Even the black Stewarts, and I don't mean dark skin color, although there probably are a bunch of them, their deeds were black, but that doesn't mean they weren't humane. Just because we pulled that dude's guts out, A, doesn't mean he didn't ask for it, and B, doesn't mean I didn't behead him afterwards. You know, speaking, you know, of the Scottish Games, perhaps. Some aspects of them, the blacker parts. Maybe not the log toss or the kilt cartwheel train. That's my favorite, by the way. I'm just riffing. I'm trying to keep my spirits up as I engage in this. I'm actually going to stop after I finish this hi-hat pattern, because there's an open jam at Pixel Pro, was it? And I just want to go check it out and see what's up. I'm going to bring my drumsticks, and I'm going to bring my Fender Strat, and I'll probably just leave it in the car unless it comes up. But I'm going to go do that because I think it's important. And I'm going to tone down the rhetoric, by the way. I'm at home in my own studio space working through my therapy shit. I'm not about to go into that public space and interact with those people and be as verbose about this topic as I am now. Not even close. I have social awareness. So, yeah, I'm going to go do that in a second. Anyway, I also spent a very long time not using the N-word a lot. It rested usually only solely in my music, and I had some friends that also were sensitive to it. Most of the time I wasn't using it. Recently I felt it more necessary because it doesn't seem that it was respected at all that I was trying to be sensitive. That's all I'll say. Well, actually, for example, one person who I tried not to say this word around, or this variation of this word around, my friend Andrew Boyd. I still don't really do that around him because he's sensitive to it, because he has some specific trauma with it. But then again, we're not really hanging out that much either. So there's not really a lot of opportunity. And I don't say it around people in general, for the most part anyway. I'm mostly just expressing it to myself, and on camera I'll say it because I'm trying to prove a point about the way that I've been treated and the actual repercussions of actions versus the forced perceived repercussions that people have imposed on me due to their personal dislike of me and their desire to actually limit my freedoms in general. All right, I'm going to pause right there. And there's so much more that I could do with this, but that's a pretty good start. If I'm not pushing myself too hard and I manage to cover a lot of topics that hopefully in the future I won't have to address in this manner, and I can return to being a lot more, contained in the way that I address things, because it's actually much better for my mental health when I don't have all these thoughts going through my head that I have to address in this manner. I'd like to address more. Right now, this is what I have to focus on in order to stay grounded. But in the future, I'd like to focus on some other sorts of topics. And I have focused on some of that stuff, like the history of my music and also how I learned what I've done and influences I had and stuff like that. And I'm praying to God that the social climate returns to some sense of not just normalcy in the sense of before COVID, but like I would really, really, really be happy if people would once again gain an overarching sense of context and value tradition not as a weapon against others, but as a record of how we got to where we have and where the lines are between like tradition as like a cultural asset versus tradition as a cultural detriment. That is what I'm saying. Like, for example, Aryans. Aren't you guys supposed to be connecting across skin colors? The Caucasus Mountains, I don't believe. I would be surprised if all people who originated near the Caucasus Mountains were all of a lighter skin tone. Now, I am not going to claim like I'm like very connected to the Aryan nation, but I say this to say like as part of the weird preconceptions people have about me, just because I have a lighter skin tone, there has been a question at some point of am I a quote unquote Aryan, especially with regards to my apparently Caucasian complexion, which I'm not sure if that's actually relevant or not. This is a label that's been put on me. Anyway, moving on, that's progress, and I'm going to stop there. And I'm also going to remove my machine from my desk area because just like I accidentally spilled a drink on the laptop and fortunately it's fine, and I don't bring drinks around. I try not to bring drinks around my laptop anymore. I'm also going to remove the machine from my desk and put it over on my air filter just to try to reduce the amount of harm that can come to it as a result of it being at my desk. Oh, and before I wrap, I'm talking about quote unquote my family a lot. I'm not saying I've had a lot of direct support from the people that I'm claiming, like nowadays, that I'm claiming are like, part of the same relation to me. But I can't always blame them because I feel like there's been so many lies about me, and I can't always expect them to see through it. Now, am I pleased that I haven't been receiving direct, open, name-to-name support? No, I'm not. But a lot of other problems have been going on too for the rest of my family. So, taking it day by day with a grain of salt, focusing on the connections that are important. You don't have to all of a sudden jump out of the woodwork, because I'm not planning on explicitly going out of my way to try to start contacting you, out of the blue, trying to like elicit some sort of response from you. But we also shouldn't need to go to that right now. If you are part of my surrounding family and you've had this impression of me that's been building over time, if you even know about me that is negative due to what you've heard about me or what has been purported about me without actually having all of the details, because if I'm not mistaken, if you actually understood what's going on with me, you would be with me on this. In general, maybe not in all the ways that I behaved, but also some of the ways that I behaved have been a result of some very specific things. I'm not asking you to emulate my behavior overall. I'm just saying the core of what I've been going through, you would be very concerned about what has been happening, and you would be on my side on this. And it's more than possible that you have been aware of who I am, and you have been supporting me, and that you don't need to make contact with me right now in that way. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, because if you're supporting me, you're not just supporting me. You're supporting a system that we all use, and in the way that it should be used. In this case, there is a should. This is not one of those times where I need to be like, oh, well, no, don't judge this part. It's like, okay, maybe some aspect of being effective within that system, you need to remove your judgments. But overall, we need to be able to have some metered weights on what is and isn't appropriate. And this isn't just about laws, by the way. Once again, those are guidelines. All right, I'm going to wrap this up now so I can get going.
Peace.
Oh, and shouts out Gusius. That was he does that. He goes,
Peace.
but here, I'll say it differently. Peace. Or how about this? Peace. Is that better? Or should I just stick with
Peace.